In the first part of the video placing this roof, the speaker settings had been changed, so you may have to turn up your volume a little bit, and then I will let you know when to turn the volume down. It should be okay because I increased the volume on the recorder. In the second video presentation, we will take a look at placing a roof and some of the other displays, getting ready for the site topography, and finishing up this big scale, bigger picture so that as we progress throughout the semester, we can take a look at some of the settings of each one of these families. These walls are actually system families, and then we looked at these component families, which are separate files that we loaded into the project. So we haven't been to elevations yet. There are a couple of ways of getting to the elevations. You can use the project browser to go to the east elevation, north, south, or west. Or if you want to practice this a little bit, if you go to the level 1, we looked at here these elevation markers. These elevation markers represent how much of the elevation that is viewed in these building elevations. There's also an interior elevation that we'll take a look at later in the semester. Here I can double click on this elevation marker to go to the north elevation, just like double clicking in the project browser, one of these views. So what we'd like to do, and it doesn't matter which view, is to create another level. If you take a look at these levels, there's level 1 and level 2. So in the architecture tab, you can go over to the far right side. You'll see here level and grid under the datum panel, and we'll go ahead and pick level. Or you can see when you rest your pointer on any one of these icons that there's a type in LL for it, and there's a type in for a lot of different things, like opening and closing the properties palette is PP. In case this properties palette closes, if I type in PP, it disappears, and then PP again, it comes back. So here we want to click on level, and there are options just like we've seen before. One of those options is to make a plan view. So we want to make a plan view because this is going to be our roof level. But sometimes when we're just using levels to signify heights, like a landing height or other elements, we might not want to create a plan view, and there's the options. Here we're going to just rest our pointer at the end of this level, and then pull your mouse up a little bit until you see these extended dash lines that represent the intersection of the end of the levels that are already there and the top of that 20-foot wall. You can go ahead and left click and then pull your mouse across until you see that same kind of extended blue dash line to line up these different levels. And there it is when you click that level, and it shows you that it's 10 feet here apart. Use your escape key to end that tool and the wheel of your mouse, or like we said in the first video, you could use this 2D wheel if you're using a laptop and you don't have the wheel of your mouse. Okay, these are called level 1, 2, and 3, and you can see over here that in the project browser that's what is represented. But if we wanted to click on here the level and then click inside the box with the text, we can type in first floor plan and then press enter, and it says, would you like to rename the corresponding views? I'll pick yes, and now you see the view in the project browser is first floor plan. And so we can do the same thing here. Click on it, click on level 2, and call this the second floor plan. And then do you want to correspond? Yes, corresponding views. And then level 3 is going to be the roof, just roof. Corresponding views, and pick OK. So you have these different levels. You can change the heights as you start to work with it a little bit later. And now we can go to the roof level by double clicking over here in the project browser. And the basic roof, and we'll be coming back to roofs, is this one in the architecture tab under build roof. It's called roof by footprint. And this you can see in the help box is going to help you to create basic gable and hip roofs. And later on we'll take a look at some of these other roof tools. So we'll pick roof by footprint. And like the other things that we've drawn and created, you have in this properties different types of roofs. You can create your own, and you can load from online and what other people have created. Right, for this one, let's just stay with a generic 12-inch, the default. If you want to create an overhang, right here under overhang in the options dialog box, we can put like 1 for 1 foot, 0 inches. But most importantly is this check mark in front of defines slope. You want to have the check mark in it before you place here your wall to create a side that has a slope. So here you can see that little blue dashed line that represents the overhang. I'm going to make sure that that's on the outside of the wall, and then I'll click. And then if you want it to be a hip roof all the way around, you just click on all 4 corners, or if you have a projection, you could click on all of those sides to create a hip roof. But for this one, just to show you, I'm going to create here a sloped roof on the top and bottom here walls, and then I'm going to take the check mark out of define slope and click here on these 2 here sides. If you have a window or something that interrupts this sketch, you don't want to continue clicking and have several little steps in there. You want to either stretch it out or use here this tool called trim or extends here to form a corner. So I'm going to click on this, and then I'll click on these 2 magenta lines, and you'll extend this corner. If you have too many lines in there, then the sketch becomes interrupted. This is kind of a solid form with no gaps. And so now I have the 2 triangular sides that are going to slope, and this one that's going to be a gable. And you can also change the slope here in the properties palette. If I wanted to change the slope, I could just press my escape key. I'm still in the sketch until I press one of these modes. So let's see, if I wanted to select here this side and change the slope, I can either click right on here in 912, or I can come over here and change it here. Okay, so I'm going to use my escape key, and I'll go ahead and pick the green check mark. Would you like to attach the highlighted walls? Sometimes it asks you, and sometimes it doesn't, to the roof. Go ahead and pick yes. Now, what it's actually saying here is about that curtain wall mullion. It's about the mullions not being able to be extended. So instead of canceling out of this, if you have a curtain wall, you can just put delete elements, so that that curtain wall will, the mullions at the very top will be deleted, and I'll show you that as we look at the drawing. If you don't have this storefront wall, then you won't have the dialog box that gives you kind of a little warning. Those dialog boxes, they give you warning, no panic. Sometimes they just are messages to you that you can override or cancel out of. Okay, so what we're looking at here, and I'll go ahead and click in space so that my roof's not highlighted, is we're looking at the roof level, but because there's a cut plane on each one of these views, the roof is cut off in this roof view. So what you can do here is go over and scroll down in properties for this view, and you'll find a view range. You can pick the edit button there, and you'll see that, there's a cut plane that's only 4 feet up, and then that whole range of view is only going to 7'6". So if this is the roof and you want the whole thing to show, you can make this offset large, maybe 30 feet, and pick apply. And then we still have the cut plane though. So maybe the cut plane, or there is no cut plane, but you have to have it somewhat high. Maybe that's also 30 feet because I don't really want a cut plane. And I'll pick apply, and I'll pick OK. So see how now it goes all the way up in this view. We can go to the 3D view and see here that because it asked me if I wanted to attach the walls when I was placing the roof, it'll automatically place those, extend or attach those roofs to that, walls to the roof. If you hold your shift key down and press the wheel of your mouse, if you have a wheel of your mouse, and move the mouse around, you'll be able to orbit around here, this drawing. And you see how it was talking about these mullions. It extended it, but it had to take out the horizontal mullions that were kind of in the way there. But that was okay with me. You can kind of see my person down there sitting on the chair. You can also use, now that we're in the 3D view, the navigation wheel that used to just be a 2D wheel on the floor plan in this navigation bar is now full navigation wheel. And when you look at using it, by clicking on it, you will have here orbit. So if you don't have a wheel on your mouse, you can orbit this way. And it's still zoom and pan and rewind. I'll close out of this. Okay, I believe I have my speaker back, and just wanted to show you here that there are ceiling plans here in the project browser. Be careful that you're not clicking on those plans. Sometimes I'll ask students to press that little minus sign there to close that, just to make sure you're not looking at the ceiling plan instead of the floor plan. At the bottom left corner there, you have all these different visual displays. Right now we're using an 1/8 inch for the annotation. We're not at the annotation yet, so we'll use this for now until we pull the objects onto our sheets, and when we set up our sheets next week. But we already looked at here the detail level. So let's take a look at that next icon, which will help us to pick something like hidden lines or shaded. So if you click on shaded, you'll see that your drawing becomes, shaded. And if you go just a couple more icons down, you'll see shadows. You can turn those on. It looks like a little bubble there. We won't be looking at the sun path until we start to look at some of the solar energy settings, like solar studies that we can create. So we've looked here at some of the visual styles like shaded, hidden line. You can even use realistic. Right now, realistic won't make it change that much, although I think if you look in my window there, the realistic view does show the person. Next week when we look at a camera view of the interior space, we'll be looking at realistic. And when we put a site plan on here with some of the topography, some of the trees that are those RPCs will show up when we use realistic. So let's go back to shaded. If you have a large drawing, the shadows on will make the drawing a little bit slower. But if you hold your shift key down and press the wheel of your mouse, you'll see that as you move the house here around, or whatever your building is, maybe it's a commercial building that you're establishing, you will see the shadows. I just wanted to show you here that if you do have realistic on and you have a brick wall or a wood door, some of those materials will start to show with that setting. So I'll go back to shaded like we have seen, and you'll still see the brick, but it won't be like that material showing. Okay, you can go ahead and add some windows at the second floor plan, maybe some interior walls, and kind of establish a building layout for this assignment. There are a couple more tools that I can show you that you might want to use. If you type in VG for visibility graphics for this view, you can take the check mark out of any of these model categories if you wanted to hide the category. So let's say you wanted to hide the roof. You could take the check mark out of roofs and then pick OK, and there goes the roof. It's just temporarily turned off. The display of it is. And that's visibility graphics overrides. It's actually also in the properties palette here under edit, but VG is the type in. So I'll go back to the roof and turn those back on by putting the check mark there and pick OK. If you wanted to turn off the category just by selecting an object, you could select that roof, right click, and go to hide in view, and make sure you're using category. We'll talk about elements next week. It's a little bit trickier when you want to hide just one object. So, all right. And the last thing to show you here is the transparency visual display at the bottom left corner again, where we saw shaded. We can go to graphic display options, and in this graphic display options dialog box, there's a tool called transparency. If you use this kind of slide bar, you can hold your left mouse button down or change the percentage of transparency, and you can go ahead and pick apply. Notice that when you have transparency on, you won't see your shadows. That's one disadvantage of it, but it does kind of give you a nice transparent look at the overall model, so that you can orbit and take a look at what you have so far. And you can always change that by going back here to the graphic display options and pulling that all the way over to 0. Okay, hope you enjoyed this first big picture video. Please don't hesitate to keep in touch with me. Next week we'll put a stair, some ceilings, set up a topography, crop the site so that it looks like a more completed model. And we're building your experiences each week